The door closes behind Minjin with a soft click. He stands in the hallway and listens to the silence for a few seconds. It's thick here, heavy, like water. He takes off his dark coat and hangs it on the counter. His movements are slow, precise. He doesn't even look. His hands do everything themselves. The house is spacious and beautiful. Everything is in its place. Expensive objects that should speak of taste and success, but they are silent. The floor beneath his feet is cold and smooth. His footsteps are not loud, but in this silence they sound all too clear. He goes to the kitchen and opens the refrigerator. Inside are neat rows of identical containers with food that the housekeeper prepares for him. He doesn't feel hungry, but routine is routine. He heats one of the containers in the microwave. The steady hum of the appliance is the only sound that disturbs the peace. Then it turns off again. Minjun eats standing by the wide window. Outside, it's evening. The city lights flicker. They flicker, living their own lives. He looks at them, but doesn't see them. The food has no taste. He swallows it because he needs to. Then he washes the plate and places it on the drying rack. Everything is clean. Everything is empty. He walks into the living room. He sits down in a massive leather chair. He doesn't turn on the light. He sits in the darkness and stares into space. An hour can pass like this. It happens almost every evening. He wakes up promptly at 7 in the morning. No alarm clock. His eyes open and he stares at the ceiling. 5 minutes later, he gets up. Shower, shave, get dressed. Everything in the closet hangs in strict order. Shirts, suits, all dark shades. He chooses the one that suits him best. His fingers button the buttons themselves. He scrolls through the news on his tablet at breakfast. Then his assistant, Taesik Rai, Ishit arrives. Taesik silently places a folder of papers on the table. Minjun nods. Taesik leaves as quietly as he arrived. Minjun opens the folder. Inside are reports, numbers, lists. He reads. His gaze glides over the lines. His brain understands everything, analyzes, finds inconsistencies. He makes notes in the margins with a red pen. His handwriting is clear, emotionless. Sometimes he calls. He speaks briefly, clearly. His voice is even, calm. They obey him. They fear him. He doesn't care. He works. Then lunch. Then work again. Sometimes meetings. People come, say something, wait for his reaction. He looks at them, gives instructions. They throw it down, leave. He doesn't remember their faces. He remembers only their deeds, their weak points, their debts. There's nothing inside him. No anger, no joy, no fatigue. There's only the quiet, measured ticking of a mechanism, like a clock ticking in an empty room. 10 years. He doesn't want to remember it. But sometimes the memory surfaces on its own, like a black and white photograph. He was 16. There was noise then, constant noise. The voices of his mother and father, laughter in the kitchen, music from his room, the smell of food that had been cooking too long and too delicious, a feeling that the whole world was warm, loud, and a little cramped. Then it all ended, not all at once. First his father, then his mother. Not some sudden event, a long, difficult illness that ate away at them both, penny by penny, hope by hope. He stood next to them, watching them fade. He held their hands, and they grew lighter and colder. He was alone in this large, suddenly empty apartment. His father's people came to him. They said that now he had to take everything upon himself, that there was no other choice. He took it. On the day the last door closed behind the last person to attend the funeral, he felt something inside him click and turn off. Like a burned-out light bulb, the light went out. The pain, the fear, the longing, all gone. Only silence remained. And duty. 10 years had passed since then. He had become reliable, steely, empty. His phone vibrates on the table, breaking the rhythm of silence. He looks at the screen. An unfamiliar number. He picks it up. Speak! The voice on the phone is low, almost without intonation. It's a voice from the past, the voice of a man who knew his father. Tomorrow. Meeting. We need to discuss new supplies. You should be there. Minjun remains silent. He doesn't like to go out on such matters in person. A neutral place, the voice continues, as if guessing his thoughts. The Blue Hour Jazz Club. 9 o'clock in the evening. You'll be alone. He will be too. Minjun looks at the lights outside the window. Why there? This is his negotiating territory. He loves music. He feels safe there. That's important. Minjun doesn't ask who this he is. He knows. A competitor with whom he needs to find common ground to avoid unnecessary problems. Okay, Minjun says and hangs up. He leans back in his chair. A jazz club. He hasn't been to a place like this in years. There will be noise, people, other people's emotions. He already feels a slight irritation, a faint spark in the depths of emptiness. But it's not a feeling. It's simply the mechanism's reaction to a change in the program. The next evening, at precisely 9 o'clock, he stands in front of the Blue Chase Club. A small, unremarkable door, just a sign with the name. He opens it. A wave of sound envelops him. Saxophone, piano, double bass. The melody is complex, smooth, but with a rigid rhythm beneath. The air is thick with the scent of cigarette smoke, expensive perfume, and old wood. And light. Blue light is everywhere. It pours from hidden lamps, painting faces, tables, and glasses, in hands in cold underwater hues. Minjin stands at the entrance, letting his eyes adjust to the dim light. His gaze quickly glides around the room, taking in the surroundings. Small tables, a bar along the wall, a stage in the back. 3 musicians are on stage. The saxophonist has his eyes closed. People are talking, but their voices are drowned out by the music. It's not quiet here, but the noise is different. It's alive. He sees his man, Taesik, already there, and gestures discreetly toward a distant table in the corner. A man is sitting there. Minjin nods and begins to make his way between the tables. His dark suit doesn't stand out. Many others are dressed similarly. He had almost reached the corner when his gaze caught on something. No, not something. Someone. There is a woman standing at the bar counter with her back to the wall. She has long, fiery red hair. It flows down her shoulders and back like a separate flame, alive and warm in the blue light. She wears a simple black dress that clings to her figure. She holds a glass in her hand, gently swaying it to the rhythm of the music. Her face. It doesn't look like the faces he's used to seeing. It's alive. She looks at the musicians, and the corners of her lips are lifted in a slight, natural smile. Her skin looks very dark against the bright hair, almost like velvet. She simply stands there, but there's such calm confidence in her that it's impossible not to stare. Minjin freezes for a moment. His brain, tuned to assessing threats and calculating benefits, momentarily fails. He doesn't analyze her. He simply watches. Then she puts down her glass and steps forward, into the small empty space between the tables and the bar. She closes her eyes and begins to move. This isn't a dance for someone else. This is a dance for herself. There's nothing superfluous, nothing artificial in her dance. It's pure, joyful life, expressed in movement. Minjin stares, unable to look away. He's forgotten about the meeting, about Taesik, about the man in the corner. His entire well-oiled system is failing profoundly. Inside him, in that same emptiness that has lasted for 10 years, something happens, a small but very sharp jolt, like the beating of a small but powerful heart. He feels uneasy. A strange, forgotten sensation arises in his chest, a tightness, as if something has appeared there again, taking up space. Something warm and uncomfortable. His own arms, hanging at his sides, suddenly seem strange, wooden. He wants to look at them to make sure they still move, but he can't tear his eyes away from her, from this woman in the blue light, dancing as if it were her last dance, and her first at the same time. His lips part on their own. He doesn't realize it. In his head, where a quiet, cold order usually reigns, only one obsessive alien rhythm sounds, the rhythm of the saxophone and her movements. At that moment, she opens her eyes. Her gaze, dark and bright, glides across the room and stops on him. She sees him watching. She doesn't stop moving. She simply looks at him through the blue gloom, and her smile grows a little wider, a little warmer, as if she's inviting him into this dance, as if she sees something in his frozen figure. And Minjin, who hasn't felt anything for 10 years, suddenly feels a surge of something sharp and unfamiliar. Shame? Panic? Desire? He doesn't know. He only knows he should turn away, that he should go to his table, that this light, this music, and this look are about to break him. He makes a sudden movement to leave, but his foot lands in the wrong place. Apologize. Walk on by. But his tongue won't obey him. His pulse is pounding in his ears, drowning out the music. And then, before his mind can stop it, his own voice rings out, quiet but clear, cutting through the noise of the club. Just 3 words. Dance with me. She looks at him. There's silence for a few seconds, or rather, a silence within him, because the music continues to play and everyone around him is talking and laughing. Her eyes, dark and attentive, glide over his face, his perfectly ironed white collar, his hands, which are too tense. There's neither the fear nor the servility he's used to seeing in her gaze. There's interest, Pure, unbiased curiosity, like that of someone who has spotted an unfamiliar but beautiful plant. He understands what he just said. The words hang in the air between them. Dance with me. It's not a request. It's not an order. It's something in between, pulled out of the darkness against his will. She doesn't back down. Her lips, plump and bright, stretch into a smile again, but this time there's more mystery in it. Are you sure you can? She says. Her voice is low and melodic, intertwining with the bass line of the piano. His mind wakes up and tries to take control of the situation. He should apologize, say it was a mistake, that he mistook someone. But something inside, that same anxious living point that arose in his chest, prevents him from doing so. He silently shakes his head. No, he can't. He's never danced. At least, not like this. She laughs softly, the sound warm as a touch. I see, but you asked nicely. With feeling, she takes another small step forward, closing the already short distance. Now he sees the golden sparkle in her brown eyes, the delicate features of her sweet face, the light freckles across the bridge of her nose. My name is Amara, she says, as if introducing herself at a dinner party. His own name is on the tip of his tongue. Minjun. But he stops himself just in time. Here, in this place, the wrong people know his name, and it carries the wrong associations. Like an anchor, it could drag this fragile, new sensation down to the bottom. June, he hears himself say. He's never allowed anyone to call him that. It's a name from another time, from before. It slips out of its own accord. June, she repeats, testing the sound. She seems to like it. She extends her hand, not to shake, but palm up, inviting. He looks at her hand. His mind screams for a meeting, for Tae-sik, who is surely watching this scene from the shadows, for the man in the corner, waiting. She easily pulls him along with her, to the same small space where she had been dancing a moment ago. Just listen to the bass, she says, turning to him. Don't think. Listen and let your feet do what they want. He stands before her, stiff as a robot. His body is an instrument that knows how to fight, shoot, sit up straight at a negotiating table. But it doesn't know how to do this. He feels enormous and clumsy. Amara begins to move again, lightly, barely noticeably. She doesn't do any complicated steps. She simply shifts her weight from foot to foot in time with the music, her shoulders swaying gently. She still holds his hand, and through this touch he feels the rhythm of her movements. Close your eyes, she whispers. He doesn't want to close his eyes. To close them is to lose control, to be vulnerable. But her voice sounds like a promise, not a threat. He slowly lowers his eyelids. Darkness. The music is louder now. He hears the pluck of a double bass, the metallic sigh of a cymbal, the melody of a saxophone that curls around everything like smoke. And through her palm, he feels a light, rhythmic movement. He tries to do the same. He shifts his weight to his right leg, then to his left. It's unnatural, awkward. Don't fight it, her voice says, very close. It's like breathing. He inhales, exhales, tries to match the rhythm he feels in her hand. His movements remain stiff, but something shifts inside. When he can't see the blue light, can't see the appraising glances, he's sure everyone is looking. He focuses only on the sound and on this single point of warmth in his palm. Gradually, millimeter by millimeter, the tension in his shoulders begins to subside. His steps, still timid, become a little smoother. He doesn't dance. He simply sways gently, synchronizing his breathing with the music and with her. It lasts an eternity. It lasts a moment. He loses track of time. Here, in this darkness behind his eyelids, with the warmth of her hand in his, the world narrows to safe, understandable dimensions, rhythm and warmth. But the world beyond his eyelids is still there. Another voice comes from the darkness, close and tense. Tae-sik's voice. Boss, his patience is running out. You need it now. Minjun's eyes snap open. Blue light slams into his retinas. He sees Tae-sik's worried face, standing 2 steps away, trying not to look directly at Amara. He sees the club again, the people. The magic dissipates like steam. Reality, cold and demanding, presses down on him with all its weight. He looks at Amara. She's already let go of his hand. Her face has grown more serious, but the interest in her eyes hasn't faded. She understands. She sees Tae-sik, his posture, his quiet but firm tone. She's not stupid. You need to go, she says calmly. It's not a question. He nods. His tongue is heavy and unruly again. Yes, he wants to say something else. Sorry, thank you. But the words stick in his throat. He just looks at her, trying to memorize every detail. The shade of her lips, the arch of her eyebrow, the way her red hair falls on her shoulder. June! Taesik calls him again, this time with a hint of alarm. Minjun turns away. The movement requires superhuman effort, as if he's tearing something alive away from himself. He takes a step away from her, toward Taesik, toward the corner table, toward his real life. He doesn't look back. He can't. He simply walks. And with each step, the warmth of her touch in his palm slowly, inexorably fades, leaving behind only a strange, aching feeling of emptiness. But it's not the familiar souled emptiness. This is the emptiness after something was inside, and then it's gone. This is worse. This hurt. And this feeling, this new, strange pain, follows him through the blue gloom of the club. They don't dance for long. Maybe a minute, maybe two. For Minjun, it stretches into a strange, timeless space. His movements remain constrained. He merely follows her gentle sway, the rhythm transmitted through her palm. But something incredible is happening inside him. He feels the beating of his own heart. He doesn't just know it exists. He hears it. A dull, rapid beat, in time with the double bass. He feels the blood rush to his cheeks. His palms grow clammy. It's awkward, unfamiliar, almost frightening. To be so physical. To be so alive that it's audible. Amara looks at him, and her gaze seems to read everything that's going on inside him. She doesn't laugh at his clumsiness. She simply leads him, gently guiding him, and her smile is now reassuring, as if saying, "It's okay, I see you." The music shifts to a calmer, more lyrical section. She slows her movements, and he, relieved, does the same. "My name is Amara," she says again, as if cementing the fact into the reality of their dance. He nods, swallowing, his mind racing. "June," he says again, and this time it sounds a little more certain. The name is a chink in his armor, a small opening to himself, to who he could be. "Nice to meet you, June," Amara says, and her fingers lightly squeeze his hand for a moment, but the armor can't simply be put aside. The shadow of his life overtakes him in the form of Taesik's figure, appearing as if from nowhere. Minjun sees him out of the corner of his eye and feels his entire body tense, returning to its usual state of readiness. He almost automatically lets go of Amara's hand. "Boss?" He's waiting. It carries with it the weight of everything he is. He looks at her silently, and his silence is an answer. He waits for her to recoil, to break this strange contact, to apologize and disappear into the crowd. That's what any sensible person would do. But Amara does none of that. She holds his gaze, and her smile doesn't fade, only becomes more conscious. "My world is far removed from your affairs, Minjun," she says calmly. She says his full name without obsequiousness, but also without challenge. Simply as a fact. "I teach art history at the university. My biggest risks are late student papers and too strong coffee in the cafeteria." She doesn't say this to demean his world. She simply marks a boundary. Here he is, and here I am, and they don't seem to intersect, but she still stands here, in front of him. "I have to go," he finally forces out. His voice is hoarse. "I understand." Amara nods. She makes a slight movement, as if about to turn around, and his heart, which had just begun to beat in a new rhythm, squeezes with the anticipation of loss. "Coffee," he says suddenly, and again his words precede his thoughts. After closing. If that's okay with you." He waits for a refusal. A reasonable, logical refusal. Amara looks at him, then quickly glances at the tense Taesik and into the corner where the impatient man sits. She's weighing something. "There's a little 24-hour cafe called Lilia's across the street. It's not fancy," she warns. "I don't care," he says sincerely. "Fine. After closing, I'll be there." The meeting in the corner of the club passes in a blur. Minjun nods, makes mental notes, gives short instructions. His professional side works on autopilot. His whole being waits. Waits for the blue light to fade, for the music to stop. He arrives at the cafe first. It is, indeed, a small, nondescript place with plastic tables and bright lights. He sits by the window. Amara arrives 20 minutes later. She has changed her dress for simple jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back into a ponytail. She looks even younger and somehow homey. They order coffee. At first, the silence is awkward. Then she asks him if he likes jazz. "I don't know," he answers honestly. "I haven't listened to it. Today was my first time." She raises her eyebrows in surprise, and then, without expecting it, he starts talking. Not about business, not about the past. He talks about the emptiness of recent years, about the silence in his home, about how he forgot that music can stir something inside you. He speaks sparingly, Abruptly, but he speaks. Amara listens. She doesn't interrupt. Then she talks about her work, about her love of Renaissance painting, about her dream of visiting Florence. She talks about students, about funny stories, and he finds himself listening, captivated. And then it happens. She tells him something funny about a colleague, and he hears a quiet, short sound. It's his own laughter, timid, unfamiliar, like the creak of an unused door. He freezes, amazed. Amara sees it, and her eyes warm. "You see," she says softly, "he's still working." They leave the cafe in the early morning. The city is just waking up, the streets deserted and damp from the night's drizzle. His chauffeured car is waiting in an alley around the corner. He walks her to her small, modest car. "Thanks for the coffee, June," she says, and the name sounds precious now, like their secret. He nods, unsure of what to say. He wants to ask to see her again, but the words won't come. At that moment, 3 people emerge from around the corner of the neighboring building. They walk quickly, purposefully. Their postures, their gazes, directed straight at him, scream danger. These are not random passers-by. Everything happens in seconds. Minjun changes before our eyes. All the softness and hesitation disappears. His body becomes collected, his eyes cold and sharp. He takes a step, placing himself between Amara and the approaching people. "Get in the car. Lock yourself in," he tells her. And his voice now has nothing in common with the one in the cafe. It is the voice of command, the voice of his other life. Amara doesn't even have time to respond. The first of the attackers is already lunging forward. A short strip of metal gleams in his hand, not a knife, but something like a piece of pipe. Minjun doesn't back down. His movements are economical, deadly, and calculated to the point of automatism. He ducks the first blow, catches the attacker's hand, makes a sharp movement. A dull snap sounds, and the man falls with a cry, clutching his twisted wrist. He meets the second with a blow to the throat with the edge of his palm. The man wheezes and collapses. The third freezes, realizing he's up against a professional, and that moment is all Minjun needs. A sharp knee to the stomach, then a headlock, and a short, hard push. The man loses consciousness. It's all over in less than a minute. Minjun stands among the 3 bodies, his breathing almost even. He casts a quick, assessing glance around, checking for any other threats. Then he turns to Amara's car. She stands, her back pressed against the door of her car. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She saw everything. Her eyes are wide open. There's no panic in them. There's shock, deep, chilling shock. She looks not at the people lying there, but at him, at his face, where the icy mask of concentration hasn't yet completely disappeared, at his hands, which just now broke others with such brutal efficiency. Their gazes meet. In her eyes, Minjun sees the same understanding they had in the club, but now it's 1,000 times deeper and more terrible. She didn't just hear the word boss. She saw what it truly meant. She saw the world he exists in, a world of quick, ruthless decisions, a world of pain and violence. He sees a wall growing between them, transparent, yet incredibly strong. It's made of her principles, of her safe life as a teacher, of a terror that hasn't yet found an outlet in a scream. "Amara," he begins, and his voice becomes human again, broken. She shakes her head silently, not no to him, but no to everything that just happened. She turns away, unlocks the car with trembling hands, gets in, and starts the engine. She drives away without a backward glance at him or at the people lying on the asphalt. Minjun is left standing alone in the gray light of the approaching morning. The warmth from the coffee, from her laughter, from her gaze, all evaporates. His fingers, which had just felt her palm, now remember only the crunch of alien bones. The silence that has returned is 1,000 times louder and more empty than it was before, because now he knows what sound can be, and he knows that he has lost it. A week passes, 7 days of emptiness, which is no longer silent but hums with a haunting echo of one word: Amara. Minjun carries out his duties, but it's like moving underwater, everything slow, muffled. He doesn't try to connect with her. He knows that any words from his world will only be another stone in the wall he's built himself. But one evening, driving past the old streets in a part of town he hasn't visited in years, he sees a tiny shop. Old record players and stacks of vinyl records are displayed in the dusty window. He orders the driver to stop. Inside, it smells of dust, paper, and time. An elderly man dozes behind the counter. Minjun slowly walks along the shelves, his fingers sliding over the spines of records. He doesn't know what he's looking for. He's just looking. and then he sees it. An album with a simple black and white cover. The band's name means nothing to him, but the track title printed on the back makes his heart skip a beat. It's that same song, the one playing in the club when he first saw her, when she danced, when the world found color. He buys the record without haggling. He holds the square sleeve in his hands, and it is the only solid, real object in his fluid, shapeless life this week. He doesn't plan it, but the next day, after pointless meetings, he gets in the car and tells her the address of her university. He doesn't think about what he'll say. He just drives. He's waiting for her at the side exit she used that day when they went to the cafe. He stands to the side, in his dark coat, and the students give him a wide berth. Amara comes out alone, carrying a heavy bag over her shoulder. She looks tired. She notices him and stops. Her face is expressionless. No fear, no anger, just anticipation. He comes closer, not too close. "I won't bother you," he says immediately, looking her in the eyes. His voice is quiet. "I came to give you this." He hands her the record in a paper bag. She doesn't take it. She looks from the bag to him. "It's that song. From the club," he explains. He can't say anything else. "Why?" she asks finally. There's no hostility in her voice, only tired incomprehension. "So you'll remember what it was like, before everything went bad. And so you know, I remember." He lowers his hand with the bag if she doesn't want to take it. "I'm sorry," he continues, simple and direct. "Not for what happened in the parking lot. I was protecting you and myself. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry that my world, that it is like this. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry I brought you into this." Amara stares at him for long seconds. Then she slowly takes the bag from his hands. She doesn't look inside. "Your world," she repeats. "Will it always be like this?" It's not a rhetorical question. She waits for an answer. "No," he says, just as bluntly. And for him, it's not just a word. It's a decision that has been brewing within him all week. "I'm leaving. I'm walking away from all of this." She studies his face, searching for a lie, a game. But he doesn't know how to lie when he's telling the truth. He's just not used to it. "Why?" she asks again, but with a different meaning. "Because I want to hear music again," he says, and it's the most honest thing he's said in 10 years. Amara takes a deep breath. She clutches the bag with the record in her hands. "Okay," she says quietly. "If it's true, if you're really leaving, then you have a chance. One. But only on 2 conditions." He nods silently. His entire world narrowed to her voice. "1. Complete honesty. No half-truths. No, none of your business. If you want to be in my world, you must be transparent, even if it's hard or embarrassing." "Agreed," he replies immediately. "Second, you must actually leave. Not just words. Not, 'I'm leading from the shadows.' You sever all ties. Forever. Do you understand what that means? It could be dangerous. For you. And, perhaps for me." He looks at her. He understands the risks better than anyone. "I understand. I will do this," he says. And it sounds like a vow. The long, dirty work begins. Minjun summons his main partners, the 2 men with whom he's built an empire for the past 8 years, Hyun and Sun. He says it bluntly, without preamble. "I'm leaving. I'm selling my stake. You can buy it out. You can find a third party. I'll be gone." A deafening silence fills the office. Then anger explodes. "Are you crazy?" Hyun shouts, slamming his fist on the table. "After everything we've built? Because of what? Because of a woman?" "It's not because of a woman," Minjun says calmly, though it's not true. "It's because of the life she represents. You think we're just going to let you go? You think they'll let you go?" He nods toward the window, implying competitors, clients, the authorities. "I'll ensure a smooth transition. All assets will be transferred. I'll leave quietly," Minjun says. He's already thought this through. "You're a traitor," Hyun snaps. "You're abandoning us just when things are looking up." The negotiations reach an impasse. Threats aren't spoken, but they hang in the air. Minjun feels the steel grip of his old life tightening. Taesik comes to see him. His assistant's face is impassive, but there is concern in his eyes. "Boss, there's a problem with the last delivery at the port. Hyun and Song insist that you handle it personally. They say a new group is involved, and they don't want to negotiate with anyone but you. This looks like a test." Minjun understands. They want to see if he's kept his cool. Is he still willing to get his hands dirty, or has he already softened up? He drives to the port at night. The meeting takes place in an abandoned hangar. On the side of the new group are three rough men with challenging looks. But Minjun catches a glimpse of one of them exchanging a glance with Hyun's man standing in the shadows. It's an act. The conversation is artificially heated. One of the new ones begins to insult Minjun, pushing him in the shoulder, trying to provoke him. Old Minjun would break his arm for this. The Minjun who wants to leave, who promised Amara he'd stop the violence, must swallow this. He must negotiate, bargain, appear accommodating, all while maintaining a straight face. It's incredibly humiliating and dangerous to show weakness in such a place. He clenches his jaw so hard his teeth ache. His hands tremble from the tension deep within. But outwardly, he's perfectly calm. He speaks quietly, but firmly. He doesn't give in to provocation. He doesn't hit. In the end, he strikes a deal on slightly less favorable terms than usual. This is the price for his loyalty, to prove he still plays by the old rules, even if he wants to leave. As he drives away, he feels sick, not from fear, but from disgust with himself and this game. He doesn't call Amara, but the next day, a text comes from an unknown number. "I heard the port was rough. Are you okay?" He looks at the message. She heard. That means she knows something about his world, or has made inquiries, and she worries. He answers simply, "Yes. Everything is fine." A minute later, another message comes. "If you need to talk, not about business, about what it's like to leave the cage, I can listen." He sits in his quiet, huge office and reads these lines over and over. He doesn't need help negotiating or solving problems by force. He needs this bridge, someone who understands that he is trying to escape the cage, even without knowing all its bars. Someone who offers not a solution, but simply a presence. He dials the number. She answers on the second ring. "Hello," her voice says. "Hello," he says. And after a pause, he adds, "Yes, I need to talk." He comes to her apartment 3 days after that phone conversation. He didn't ring the doorbell, but warned her in advance. Standing on the landing outside her door, he feels more vulnerable than he did in that abandoned hangar. Amara opens the door. She's wearing simple gray pants and a large, soft sweater. Her hair hangs loosely over her shoulders. She smiles, inviting them in, and the gesture seems so natural, so far removed from the formalities of his world. His first glimpse of her house is a shock to the senses. There's no emptiness here. There's no impeccable order. The apartment is small, but lived in. Every surface, every shelf tells a story. Books aren't arranged in neat rows, but in stacks, piled high, some lying open on the table or on the arm of the sofa. On the walls aren't expensive paintings, but posters from exhibitions, reproductions of famous paintings, a few framed children's drawings. She mentioned her nephews. On the shelves next to the books are figurines from various countries, strange stones, and dried flowers in glass jars. And the music. Jazz was playing softly from the speakers, not the kind he'd heard at the club, but something calm, with female vocals. The air smelled not of disinfectant and expensive perfume, but of cinnamon, paper, and that same warm, spicy perfume he remembered. "Come in and make yourself comfortable," Amara says, pointing to a sofa where a stack of magazines needs to be moved first. Minjun sits carefully on the edge. His gaze glides around the room, taking in the details. This isn't disorder. This is abundance. An abundance of life, interests, memories. "Would you like some tea?" she offers. He nods. He watches her walk around the small open kitchen, put on the kettle, and pick up 2 large ceramic mugs, one with a picture of a cat, the other with an abstract pattern. She brings the tea and sits in the armchair opposite him. They spend a few minutes simply drinking. He doesn't need to speak. The silence here isn't oppressive. It's filled with soft sounds. The creaking of the old parquet floor, the hum of the refrigerator, music, her calm breathing. "Thank you for inviting me," he finally says. "Thank you for coming," she replies. And then she adds, "You look different." Different? Less like a statue, more like someone who's very tired. He looks down at his hands, wrapped around a warm mug. He talks, not about the details of the case, but about his feelings, about how humiliating it was at the port, about the icy silence of his former partners, about the constant expectation of a trap. He says he's afraid not for himself, but for failing to fulfill her second condition, to sever all ties completely. Amara listens. Then she gets up, goes to the record player, and puts on the very record he gave her. A familiar melody fills the room. "You're already in a new world, Minjun," she says quietly. "You're just not used to it yet. It's noisy, a little cramped, and very, very alive." He starts coming more often. Sometimes just to sit in silence while she reads. Sometimes they talk. He talks about his mother, his father, what he was like before he was 16. He even tried cooking dinner in her small kitchen once, and it ended with slightly burnt eggs and her laughter, which sounded better to him than any music. But this new world is fragile. Like a glass sphere, warm and bright inside, but cold and threatening outside. His phone rings late at night when he's already at his office. It's Taysik. The assistant's voice is even more dispassionate than usual, which means things are bad. Boss? They were looking for you, not our people. Those we displaced last year because of the port contracts. They're asking questions, not just about business. They saw you with her, near the university. An icy hand squeezes his insides. What exactly do they want? For now, a show of respect, financial compensation for past misunderstandings, but their interest in your personal life, that's a bad sign. Hyun and Song know about their visit. They've done nothing to cool their interest. Min-jun understands. His former partners are giving their old enemies a hint. A weak spot has been found. They'll use this as leverage to either bring him back into the business or break him on the way out. Amara has become that leverage. The fear he feels is new and all-consuming. He doesn't fear pain or threats to himself. He fears that her world, this fragile world of books, music, and laughter, will be damaged, that her peaceful life will be destroyed because of him, that the cold of his past will overtake her sunny apartment and extinguish the light in her eyes. He lies awake all night. He stares at the ceiling of his immaculate, impersonal bedroom and sees only her face. He sees how fear replaces the curiosity and warmth in her eyes. He can't let this happen. In the morning, he calls Hyun and Sun to a meeting, not in his office, but on neutral territory, an empty conference room in one of the office buildings that formally belongs to him. He comes alone. They come with two of their men. Changed your mind? Hyun asks with a barely concealed grin. No, says Min-jun. His voice rings with the silence of the room. I'm leaving, but I want this to be clean. For everyone. Nothing is clean in our business, Min-jun, says Song, examining his nails. It is. If the price is right. He places a folder on the glass table, then another, and another. This is everything, he says. All my shares in all joint ventures. All the assets are here in the city. Summer houses, warehouses, a share in the transport company. The appraised value is here. I'm selling everything to you, 40% of the market price. A stunned silence hangs in the room. Even Song stops looking at his nails. You're giving everything away? Hyun asks incredulously. Everything, except for a personal account, which is enough to rent a small apartment and live on. Everything else is yours, so that those who ask unnecessary questions receive a clear answer and lose all interest. In me, and in my circle, forever. He looks them straight in the eyes. He does not bargain. He offers a deal in which they get almost everything, and he gets only freedom and a guarantee of security for one person. For them, it is fantastically profitable. They get rid of him without shedding blood and get his fortune for next to nothing. Why? Song finally exhales. He cannot understand such irrationality. Min-jun leans back in his chair. For the first time in years, something like a slight, tired smile appears on his face. To hear the music, he says. And of course, they don't understand. They look at each other. Greed wars with suspicion. Greed wins. It's a deal, says Hyun. But you're leaving now, within a week, and we will never hear your name again. And you will never disturb her, Min-jun clarifies. And for the first time, there's steel in his voice. This isn't a request. This is the final condition. Song nods, sealing the deal. She doesn't exist for us. Min-jun stands. He feels incredibly light. He has almost nothing left. But he just bought safety for her, and a chance for himself. He leaves the room, leaving his past in the form of folders on the glass table. The next few days pass in a strange, almost surreal rhythm. Min-jun completes the final formalities. He signs papers, and the keys to the offices and warehouses are handed over to Hyun and Sun. His own office is empty. His personal belongings have been squeezed into a single small box. A couple of books left by his parents. A watch his father gave him for his coming of age. Nothing else matters. He moves out of the big house. A hired mover carries a few boxes of his modest new belongings to the car. Min-jun stands in the doorway and looks around at the empty, silent rooms for the last time. He spent 10 years here, dormant. Nothing has changed here, but he has changed. He closes the door and doesn't take the keys. Everything is arranged so that the new owner, one of Hyun's distant relatives, will be able to take possession of the house tomorrow. He now has a small sum in his account, a suitcase of clothes, Amaria's phone number, and nothing else. No protection, no status, no people obligated to carry out his orders. He's more vulnerable than ever. If those same people from the port approach him on the street now, he'll have no security, no name to make them hesitate, only his own skills. And if Hyun and Song change their minds, but he tries not to think about that. A deal is a deal. He rents an apartment. It's small, with ordinary furniture, in an ordinary building. The view from the window is of a playground and other similar buildings. He stands in the middle of the living room on a cheap rug and listens to the silence. It's different, not oppressive, but wary. The emptiness around him is no longer inside him. He's filled with a strange, nervous anticipation. What next? Who is he now, if not that person? He understands that freedom is not a celebration. It's a quiet, empty slate. And for the first time in many years, he's afraid to take the first step. He doesn't plan it. But that evening, sitting in his new, quiet apartment, he realizes he can't just wait. There's something unfinished. He dresses in simple dark jeans and a sweater, and takes a light jacket. He takes a taxi. He doesn't call the driver, whom he lets go with all the other assets. Blue Hour! The club looks exactly the same nondescript door, the same bluish light seeping from beneath it. He pays the entrance fee and enters. Everything is the same, and everything is completely different. The music, the smell, the crowd. But now he is not the master here, not a player, not a man who has come to an important meeting. He is just a visitor, one of many. No one rushes to recognize him. No one whispers behind his back. To this world, he is no longer a nobody. This is simultaneously liberating and humiliating. He makes his way to the bar and orders a regular beer. He sits down on a high stool and surveys the room. His gaze finds the corner where his former companion sat. There are different people there now. He finds the spot at the bar where she stood. There's a girl with short blonde hair there now, laughing, her head thrown back. He drinks beer and listens to music. He tries to hear in it what he heard then. But now it's just music. Beautiful, alive, but just music. The magic doesn't return. It wasn't in the saxophone or the blue light. It was in the way she looked, the way she moved, the way she touched his hand. It was in the awakening he felt. He spots Tessik. His former assistant is standing against the wall, watching the club. Their eyes meet. Tessik looks at him expressionlessly, then gives a barely perceptible, respectful nod. Not boss. More like a farewell. Then Tessik turns away and disappears into the crowd, returning to his new duties. This is the last thread. Now everyone here is a stranger to him. Minjin finishes his beer. He came here to say goodbye. To the old world. To who he was. To the place where it all began and where it all ended for him. He no longer belongs to this universe of power, secrets, and shadows. He gets up and walks toward the exit. He passes the dance floor. No one looks at him. He opens the door and steps out onto the cool night street. He stands on the sidewalk, breathing in the fresh air. Behind him is the hum of the club, his past. Ahead is the quiet city, its unknown future. He is free. He is vulnerable. He is alone. But in his jacket pocket lies a phone, and on that phone is one number, a number that leads not to the old world, but to a new one, to a world that smells of cinnamon and books, where music plays, and where, perhaps, he is welcome. He doesn't call yet. He simply turns his back on the blue light of the blue hour and slowly walks away. His last dance in the old world is over. It was quiet, unnoticed, and took place entirely within him, a dance of farewell. Now something else begins. Several days pass. Minjin lives in a new, quiet reality. He wakes up, makes himself a simple breakfast, and looks out the window. He strolls along unfamiliar streets, aimlessly. He goes into stores and buys ordinary things. Groceries, soap, a new light bulb. It's strange and new to take care of such small things himself. All this time, his phone is silent. He is silent too. He dials her number dozens of times and never presses the call button. What can he offer her? He's not the powerful man from the club. That facade is gone. But he's also not the simple, whole person who could easily feed into her world of books and lectures. He's a nobody, a man learning to live again at 36. He has no profession, no familiar circle of friends, nothing but a desire to escape the past. He sits on his new sofa, staring at a plastic cup of tea. He thinks of her apartment, of warm ceramic mugs, of laughter, of music. He wants all of this so much, it physically hurts. But he's afraid he'll only bring a shadow into her bright world, the shadow of his vulnerability, his inexperience with simple things, a constant wariness he feels he'll never be able to turn off. He made his choice to keep her safe, not to buy himself a place next to her. The silence in his new apartment begins to oppress him again. But now, it's not the familiar emptiness, but a painful weight, one he condemns to silence. He waits, doing nothing, because the first step seems impossible. Too much risk, too little he can give in return. Evening falls. He decides to go out, just to escape the confines of four walls. He puts on his jacket and opens the door. Amara is standing on the threshold. He freezes. She's here, in a simple beige coat, with a bag over her shoulder. Her red hair is slightly tousled by the wind. There's no smile on her face, but there's no judgment either. There's seriousness and determination. They stand and look at each other for a few seconds. He can't utter a word. "You didn't call," she says finally. There's no reproach in her voice, just a statement of fact. He shakes his head silently. He can't find an excuse that would sound sincere out loud. "I knew you wouldn't call," she continues, "because you think you have nothing to give me, because you've given everything away, and now you're afraid to show up empty-handed." He nods again, his throat tight. Amara takes a step forward. She looks him straight in the eyes. "You gave up your fortune so that I wouldn't be touched. You walked out of a world where you were a king to become a nobody. You didn't do it for yourself. You did it to keep your word to me, so that we would have a chance." She takes another step. Now she's very close. "You think this is nothing? You think this is not enough? Minjin, no one in my life has ever done anything even remotely close to this for me. No one has chosen me at the cost of everything." He looks down. Her words sting because they are true, and he is not used to such truth. "I didn't ask you," he begins hoarsely. "I know," she interrupts softly. "You didn't ask. You just did it. And now you stand here, afraid that your sacrifice has made you unworthy. That's complete nonsense." She puts her bag on the floor in the hallway. "I waited a week for your call. Then I realized I wouldn't get it, because you're still trapped in your old beliefs, that a person is only valuable for what they have. Power, money, connections. You don't have any of that anymore, and you don't realize that you've become 1,000 times more valuable." She extends her hand to him, not to shake, palm up, the same gesture he'd seen in the blue light of the club. "You offered me a dance back then, when you had everything. Now you have nothing. But I need this dance. The one you started when you decided to change everything. The one that continues now, in this quiet hallway." He looks at her hand, at her open, warm palm. He raises his gaze to her face, at her eyes, which look at him without fear, without doubt, only with firm, tender confidence. "I don't know how to dance it anymore," he admits honestly, his voice breaking. "I know," Amara says. "Just take a step." And then he understands. She didn't come for ready-made answers, not for guarantees. She came for him, for the very man who found the strength to ask her to dance when his world was black and white. She didn't choose him when he was the boss. She chose him now, when he's free and vulnerable. He slowly, as if through the resistance of an invisible thickness, raises his hand. He places his palm on her. Warmth, the same one that woke him from sleep. "It's here again. Dance with me." And he takes that step, forward, across the threshold, not into the past, not into the void, but into a new, unfamiliar, frightening, and infinitely desired life. Straight to it. He takes a step. His foot, heavy and clumsy, moves forward, crossing the boundary between the solitude of the hallway and her space. He's so close that he can see the tiniest dust particles dancing in the light of the hallway lamp around her red hair. He smells that same, now familiar and dear, warm, spicy scent of her perfume. They stand, palms touching. There's no music. The silence is broken only by the steady hum of the elevator shaft and the distant noise of the city outside the window. This isn't a jazz club. There's no blue light, no saxophone. There's only them and the vague whisper of their breathing. "I don't hear music," he says quietly, almost ashamed of it. Amara answers just as quietly, "Where you started hearing her, just remember." She begins to sway slowly from side to side. Her movements are almost imperceptible. She's not dancing, she's simply breathing in motion. And through her joined palms, this gentle swaying is transmitted to him. He repeats, shifts his weight from foot to foot. 1, 2. It's not a dance. It's simply coexistence in one point in space. Gradually, his breathing synchronizes with her rhythm. He closes his eyes and remembers. Remembers not a melody, but a sensation. the sensation of waking up in that blue haze. She looks at him, and her gaze is no longer that distant seriousness. That same spark, that warmth that attracted him in the first place, is there again. But now it's directed not at the stranger in the club, but at him, at who he is now. "See?" she whispers. "Do you hear?" He nods. Then she walks past him, peering into the depths of the apartment. "It's empty," she states, looking around at the almost bare walls, the new but cheap sofa, and the boxes in the corner. "Yes," he agrees. He feels uneasy again at this emptiness, at her obvious poverty compared to her home. But Amara doesn't seem disappointed. She goes to the window and looks out at the lights of the playground below. "A blank slate," she says, turning to him. "It's scary, but it's also an opportunity to draw whatever you want." "I can't draw," he says honestly, stepping closer. He stops 2 steps away from her, as if afraid to upset her delicate balance. "You'll learn, or you won't. You can just live here, without pictures on the walls. The main thing is that you feel good here. I felt unwell until you came." These words burst out of their own accord. They hang in the air, as bare and honest as the walls around them. Amara smiles, and this smile fills the sparse furnishings of the room with warmth. "Then maybe I should come more often," she says easily, but there is a question in her eyes. "Yes," he answers immediately, without hesitation. "Please." There's a pause. The awkwardness of the first step is behind them, but uncertainty lies ahead. What now? They stand in the middle of a nearly empty room, and all the rules of their old interaction no longer apply. "Do you have any tea?" Amara asks, looking towards the small kitchen alcove. "Yes, a plain black one, and 2 plain white mugs, no cats." He tries to joke, and it comes out half-heartedly, but she laughs, and the sound acts like a balm on him again. "Perfect," she says, and heads to the kitchen. He watches her navigate his small space with ease, finding the kettle, turning on the water, taking out the tea bags. She acts as if she's been here 100 times. It blurs the boundaries, making his new, sterile refuge feel a little like her own. Her presence fills the void, not with things, but with herself. They drink tea, sitting on the floor, leaning their backs against the sofa because he doesn't have a table yet. They talk about simple things. She tells a story about a funny incident during a lecture, when a student confused the Renaissance with the Enlightenment. He listens, and he doesn't have to pretend anything. He's simply curious about how her world works. Then she asks him how he spent these past few days. And he tells her about how strange it is to buy milk himself, how he got lost 2 blocks from home because he never walked without a specific destination, how he sat for an hour in the park, simply watching children and dogs play. These simple events, which would be nothing to anyone else, are revelations to him, and she listens as attentively as if he were describing a complex financial transaction. When the cups are empty, the evening silence sets in. She looks at her watch. "I have to go," she says, and he feels something tighten inside. He nods silently and stands up to help her with her coat. She puts it on and turns to face him. They stand in the hallway again, as at the beginning. "Thank you for the tea, June," she says, using that shortened name that belongs only to the 2 of them. "Thank you for coming, Amara." She looks at him with a long, searching gaze, as if checking to see if the man who took the step is still there. Then, making up her mind, she raises her hand and touches his cheek, lightly, just for a second. Her fingers are warm from the cup. "You're not alone," she says firmly. "Remember that. Even when I'm not here, you made a choice, and now you have me, not as a reward, as a companion. Understand?" He can only nod again, because her words and this simple touch leave him speechless. "I'll call tomorrow," she says, opening the door. "Maybe we can go somewhere, to a movie, or just for a walk. You haven't seen our city park yet, have you?" "No," he answers hoarsely. "I didn't see it." "Great, then I'll show you." She steps out onto the landing and turns around. "Sleep well, and listen to music." She leaves. The door closes. He remains standing in the hallway. He touches the spot on his cheek where she touched it. The warmth remains. The apartment is quiet again, but the silence is different now. It's not empty. It's charged with anticipation. Not anxious, like before, but warm, like the echo of her laughter. He looks at the 2 simple white mugs in the sink, at her trace in his space. He goes to the bedroom, undresses, and lies down. He looks at the ceiling. No anxious thoughts about debts, threats, or negotiations run through his head. He thinks about the park, about what it could be like, about simply walking next to her and looking. He takes a deep breath in and out. In the darkness, he begins to swing his foot again, to the inner rhythm he found with her. It's not a dance. It's simply the beat of life, his life, which is finally his again, and which, he now knows, he shares with someone. He falls asleep dreamlessly, feeling no weight on his chest for the first time in years. Outside, the lights in the neighboring houses go out, and the city grows quiet, ushering in a new day. A day he will greet not as a boss, not as a ghost, but simply as June, a man learning to live, listen to music, and wait for the call. He wakes to the bright morning sun shining directly into his face. In his old house, the curtains were always perfectly matched. The light never woke him. Here, the window is curtainless. He lies and stares at the ceiling, where the light from the cars below dances. It's irritating, but it's also present, a sign of a new day. He gets up and turns on the electric kettle, a cheap one with a loud hiss. While he boils water, he looks out the window. There are already children on the playground. He hears their laughter, the screams of their mothers. This isn't silence. This is life. He drinks tea and waits. He doesn't check the business news. He looks at his phone, but only at the lock screen. He waits for her to call. An hour passes. He starts to get nervous. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe yesterday was just a fit of pity. At 9 in the morning, my phone vibrates. Not a call, a message. Good morning. Lecture until 2. Shall we meet at the central fountain in the park at 2:30? If that's okay with you? He answers immediately, with one word. Yes. Then he realizes it looks meager and adds, I'll wait. And after a second of thought, he sends another. Thank you. The remaining time drags on painfully slowly. He showers, gets dressed, spending a long time choosing between two almost identical sweaters. It seems stupid, but it's important. He wants to look normal. Not like a businessman, not like someone from the past, just like a person. He arrives at the park half an hour early. He stands by the fountain, watching the water and the people throwing coins. He feels out of place. He stands too straight, looks around too carefully. His habit of assessing the situation for threats hasn't gone away. At 2:25, he sees her. She's walking down the alley, wearing a light beige coat and carrying a bag over her shoulder. She's chewing something, apparently snacking on something. Seeing him, she waves and quickens her pace. Hi! You're here! Her cheeks are flushed from walking, her eyes filled with the pleasure of meeting them. Hi, he says, and his own tension eases a little at the sight of her smile. Sorry I'm late. The group kept me after the lecture. She wipes her lips with a napkin. It's okay. I was just looking at the water. Bored? No. Interesting. I never just stare. She takes his elbow, a light, casual touch. Come on, I'll show you my favorite spot here. There's hardly anyone there. She leads him along winding paths deeper into the park, away from the bustling center. She talks about the trees, about when the park was founded. Her voice is calm, informative. He listens, and he doesn't need to make conversation. He can simply be. They emerge into a small clearing surrounded by tall old maple trees. A bench overlooks a small pond with ducks. Indeed, there's no one else there. Here, Amara says, sitting down. My refuge. When I need to think or just catch my breath. He sits down next to her, leaving a hand's breadth between them. They sit in silence for a few minutes, watching the ducks. How are you? She finally asks, turning to him. It's strange, he answers honestly. I always feel like I've forgotten something, like I should be somewhere, calling someone. Then I remember I shouldn't, and I feel uneasy. It's too quiet inside, even when it's noisy around me. She nods, as if she'd been expecting it. It's like withdrawal. You're giving up the adrenaline, the feeling of power, the constant tension. Your body needs to readjust. It's normal. You talk like you know. I've seen people change their lives. Students who leave the paths their parents chose. It's always painful, but growing pains. He looks at his hands. What if I don't grow up? What if I remain this? Nothing. You're not nothing anymore, Minjun. You're a person sitting on a park bench, afraid of the future. That's something. You weren't afraid of the future before. You controlled it, or you ignored it. He considers her words. There's truth in them. What should I do? He asks. And there's no weakness in the question, only the confusion of a student. Live, one day at a time. Learn simple things. Find what interests you, not what was necessary for image or survival. Maybe you'd like to study something, or work with your hands, or just read a lot. The world is big now. You can choose any direction. I don't know what interests me, except, he trails off, except what has to do with me. she finishes for him without embarrassment. He nods, feeling himself blush. That's a good start, Amara says. But not enough. I can't be your whole world. That's not right for both of you. You need to find something of your own. They fall silent again. A duck flies in and starts quacking demandingly, begging for food. Amara laughs and rummages through her bag, pulling out half a bun. She breaks off a piece and tosses it to the duck. Start small, she says, watching the duck greedily grab the food. Go to the library tomorrow. Just walk among the shelves. See where your eyes are drawn. History, technology, art, or maybe go to a hardware store. Touch wood, iron. Listen to yourself. There, inside where you found music, there are other responses. You just have to give them silence for them to emerge. He listens to her, and a strange feeling comes over him. Not fear, but something akin to anticipation. As if she's giving him a map of uncharted territory, where he's the only explorer. I'll try, he says. And I'll be there, she promises. But you have to go on your own. They stay in the park until evening. They say little, but it's not awkward. They simply exist together in this new state of peace for him. When the air cools, she gets up. Will you walk me to my car, Kai? Of course. They walk back through the park. As they say goodbye, she lightly touches his arm again. Tomorrow. Library. Promise. I promise, he says. And call me this evening and tell me what you saw. Okay. He watches her drive away. Then he walks slowly toward his house. Thoughts of libraries, of instruments, of silence waiting to be filled with meaning swirl in his head. He walks into his empty apartment. He turns on the light. He looks at the bare walls. For the first time, he sees not poverty, but potential. A blank slate. He takes out his phone and makes one entry in his calendar for tomorrow. Library, 11 o'clock. Then he cooks himself dinner. Simple pasta. It's a little undersalted, but edible. He eats it, looking out the window at the lights coming on. He doesn't feel lost. He feels like he's at the beginning of a journey, a long, difficult one, but his own. And somewhere along the way, she'll be there, not leading, but a companion. He washes a plate and puts it on the drying rack. The actions are simple, routine, but there is no melancholy in them. There is an intention to build a life, with his own hands, from scratch. He goes to bed, and this time he doesn't even need to search for an internal rhythm. It's already there, the quiet, steady beat of a new beginning.